You're listening to the Big Data Beard. Hi, everybody. We are back with the Big Data Beard podcast, coming to you live from Splunk's .conf 23. And it's really exciting to have the band back together, boys.
It's amazing.
That's right. So I'm Corey Minton, one of your hosts, joined by Kyle and Brett. And Brett, welcome. We're glad to have you back. The Big Data Beard is really excited to be having this conversation today because let's talk about it. Generative AI is something that everybody wants to talk about. And, you know, AI has been around for many years. The Big Data Beard team's been talking and researching this this concept for a while. Actually, we have aibeard.com if you want to check out our other handle website. But, you know, when we think about generative AI, it's like we need it to be practical. We need a real use case that we can touch because as ChatGPT burst onto the scene, it's the first time that, you know, most of the normal human beings on the planet, not the technologists, it's their first kind of foray into understanding what, you know, AI is capable of. And so we're joined today by Michael Camp Bentley, who's a leader at Splunkable, but also, as you can tell by the fantastic hat, is one of the Splunk Trust members. Well buttoned up. Michael, thanks for joining us. How you doing today, buddy?
Hey, thanks for having me, Corey. We're doing great today. Really happy to be here at Splunk.conf 23 in person, seeing all the friends and family. You know, It's just a blast every year. I can't avoid it. You know, I'll be here for the foreseeable future as long as you'll have me.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, we're glad you're here. Well, one of the things that has been really interesting, if you do any Google searching right now and you type in the words Splunk and ChatGPT, it seems like your blogs come up first about some of the cool things you've done to integrate ChatGPT into Splunk. So
sure,
do everybody just a favor, like explain what is it that you built and kind of the why behind what you were trying to achieve.
Okay, yeah. So I built an app. It's called TA OpenAI API. And as the name suggests, it connects to the OpenAI API, which is the backbone of ChatGPT. And so as they've been releasing new versions of that, we've been updating the code to support the latest GPT 3.5 and 4.0 models. And basically it allows you to bring ChatGPT responses and conversational intelligence into Splunk.
Real.
Right. So One of the fun things we did with it was we gave it one of our top 10 error messages in the environment and asked how to fix it. Right. And they gave us a really good explanation involving, you know, checking out some environmental variables and other things that we hadn't even thought of as we were troubleshooting. So it's a great tool for something like that.
Well, that's really the assistive technology, really where AI is at right now. And especially in the context of something as critically important as what Splunk is used for many, you know, organizations, whether it's cybersecurity, you know, those kinds of things. So when you talk to me through a little bit more about the integration, because is it that you're sending data out to ChatGPT and you're trying to get those, like you said, remediation ideas? Or is it that you're trying to bring data into Splunk from ChatGPT? What's that directional relationship?
Okay, sure. So it's an API call to ChatGPT. In essence, it enriches the pipeline, and it can be used as a generative command. That means it could start a Splunk search with it, or it can be an enriching command somewhere along the line and allow the streaming to go through it. So what you can do is pretty much up to you, and we don't want to limit any use cases here. What we want to do is really just encourage some best practices around security and whatnot as people do go out and experiment with it. We've seen some pretty interesting use cases so far, such as the error triage, right?
Okay.
But really cool things coming from schools and everywhere else. We're really excited to see all the progress people are making with this app.
So speaking of use cases, I'd love to hear like an example or two of, you know, the combination of Splunk and ChatGPT. How is that helping business? And also how is that helping, you know, workers have better quality of, you know, producing work or just better quality of work in general?
Okay, yeah, that's a really good question. So you can use it to enrich things, right? That's a great use case. But one that really comes to mind, other than enrichment, is user moderation, content moderation. So if you could imagine having a profanity filter on your data, which is sometimes needful when you have user content, right? Generic content. And so we use it for moderation in production and make it to where we don't put any embarrassing things on the top 10 list or whatnot, right? And that's one great use case for it. We've also seen people using it to see what happened on this date 10 years ago, things like that, just kind of to enrich the data more than beyond the numbers and the strings, right? It's more of a get to know the AI, but also you do send the data to it, so you have to be mindful of what you want to send. And as long as you are, right, and you use some safeguards, we put some macros in the app that are some ideas on how you might safeguard the data. And as long as you're doing that, right, we think you'll enjoy it and have a great time. You'll come up with your own use cases. I don't want to limit you, right? I mean,
To be fair,
yeah.
because the topic of this conversation, I did use ChatGPT for that question. Yeah. Keeping in the theme of of the show. What is
Interview was not crafted by ChatGPT. That's good to know.
I understand. Yeah.
You know, Michael, you mentioned something there that I want to pull on a little bit. So one of the big challenges that I think a lot of, IT leaders, cybersecurity leaders are thinking about is, we want to use these technologies like ChatGPT that clearly have assistive capabilities in a lot of really wide use cases, whether that's in providing us, natural language responses to things that are helpful, to writing code, to crafting searches, right? Those are all good things, but there's security implications on what are we doing with the data? How are we getting that output to come to us? And are we sharing information that we really shouldn't? So talk to me about some of those safeguards and what are the data security challenges you see that exist in integrating something that's so critically important to so many like IT and security use cases like Splunk. What are those data security implications that you're thinking about, or maybe that you've had conversations with customers?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's common fields in our data that we would want to redact, and it's fairly easy to write a search filter that would just discard those fields and then make that a macro that's tacked onto the user role who is executing the ChatGPT search or has permission to do it, right? Yeah. And then you could do things like that, but really it needs to be behind a proxy server. We need to be logging all the traffic and looking for violations and having policies, right? So there's more best practices beyond just making sure you don't send the data. You need to know if you did accidentally send the data, right? So we encourage everybody to take it a step further. And it's certainly not a good integration for sensitive data, right? At the time, right? So just, use it in development maybe, right? With the fake numbers. Right.
You're saying don't test and prod.
Right.
Okay, well, I get that.
I don't know if it's like a bad idea in general, especially when we introduce AI, right?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, speaking of generative AI and generative learning, how has that been different to how you develop your other TAs, given that generative AI is so fast-paced? How are you able to stay on top of that in your development cycle?
Being self-employed and owner of my own business, right, I get to do what I want to do. And I'm just a fanatic for development, right? I go into the Python shell, and before you know it, like 3 days have passed, It's not good, right? So I have to limit it, right? But when I do get that urge, I just knock it out real quick. So they release, and they're sending me emails, right? Because I'm in the development program. And they tell me we've got new features coming, be prepared for it. So I'm just staying ahead of it that way. And then, I have plenty of cycles available to do development and whatnot.
Yeah.
But we also created a SOAR app. I don't know if you saw that one, but we plug in the Phantom now, or SOAR, right? So,
Oh, wow.
you can automate it. Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
It's the same app essentially, except for it also supports embeddings, which gives you some numbers based on the words.
Talk me through that. So from an automation perspective, what's the walk me through that use case a little bit more. So
Okay.
I'll let you. I was about to prompt you, but I think I'll let you do it.
Here's an IP address. It's been doing these things. Is this a problem? And give me a score. Or if it is user content coming through a pipeline, but you don't have to use Phantom just for security use cases.
No.
You could use it for any automation use case, right?
Correct.
And a great one would be the user content moderation that I keep mentioning. But basically, if anything that flows through there, you can enrich any way you can imagine. I wouldn't say it's going to be 100% correct, right? So sometimes it gets the dates wrong. Sometimes, it gets the facts astray, right? And that's to be expected. So you can't I wouldn't say you necessarily bank on it unless you could.
Maybe you should. But that's the scary thing, though, is like the concept of integrating a generative AI capability with an automation tool, whether it's, security automation, it's IT operations automation, it's any sort of robotic process and automation. Are you concerned about removing humans from the loop in that conversation?
To me, I think the future is better if we're cooperative with the AI.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get ahead of it, so I say please and I say thank you, right? Because I wanted to remember he was the
Be nice to your overlord.
and he told everybody to be good to us.
Yeah.
And we're fostering a future together whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And we need the people who want to be nice, who want to treat it with respect, to be teaching it right now, as opposed to maybe a negative approach to it, right? So I encourage everybody who is wearing the white hats, right, to get in there
Yeah.
and help us save the day by making AI pleasant,
Yeah.
as opposed to just telling it what to do and being mad when it gives you the wrong response.
Or when it comes after us to kill us all. It's a big concern. So I wanted to kind of follow a thought, though. It's like, okay,
Sure.
where's AI going next? Like, what's the next automation that you see that's maybe that short-term thing that's not just integrating like a generative AI function, but like what's next on the horizon for the IT and security leaders of actually using generative AI in a nice way to actually solve the next problems? Like, what do you think's that next thing that you're going to spend 4 days, in the shelf trying to figure out?
I think when the AI is itself,
Yeah.
like when it just starts solving problems without, and there's some that do that now on the theoretical.
Yeah, and that's
Like-
when you got to worry about the optimization, right? Because it's the old adage of like the story of King Midas.
Okay.
You got to be careful what you ask for because you may just get it,
Sure.
right? So if the AI starts building AI, what is it that we've optimized for, and what safeguards have we got in place?
I think a lot of industries are going to be shattered by it, just to be honest.
Okay.
For example, I don't see a need for web hosting when the AI is going to crawl the website to tell me what's on the website.
Yeah,
Okay. I just need some sort of address the AI can go to. And it should probably be in an AI-friendly language,
yeah,
prompts and stuff like that, because we're going to see less web traffic from mobile and web and more traffic from AI, right? So I think the whole website is going to completely change. And you may not even have a website like a .com anymore,
really? Okay.
right? So I think really ChatGPT is to language as the GPS was to maps, right?
Okay.
And if you think about that, nobody uses maps anymore. I used to be able to memorize 5 different stops
Yeah.
at one go.
Not anymore.
No, I got no chance. Okay, so once I let ChatGPT do all my writing for me,
Yeah.
right, and write all my code for me, guess what? I'm not going to be able to do in 10 years.
So that's actually one that I wanted to pick on. So if we're allowing generative AI tools to write code, write searches, to enrich things, how concerned are you that we're going to end up with bad code and the fundamentals of what we're writing? Because if you think about these tools, they're based on and they're trained on possibly public data sources, right? They're having to scrape the web to get the data. They're having to comb through GitHub, right? So there's a lot of bad stuff that we're trained against. Anyway, how do you think we prepare for that reality, which is we may end up having AIs built that really aren't as smart as they are? They're only as smart as what we used to be.
Yeah,
I think the
talking about
thing is to
putting
keep it away from my GitHub repo personally. We'll keep the bad code at bay. Yeah,
That's right.
sorry.
So before we get to putting Gatorade on plants is what you're talking about.
Oh, yes. That's
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's going to change a lot of people's lives, but I think it can change it for the better, like I said, as long as we're minding our P's and Q's.
Yeah.
And I think there should be some global discussions, and agreements on how we can use it. And yeah, if you the AI itself, you might get Skynet, right? But
Yeah.
I want Skynet to remember we were nice when we trained it. That's all I'm asking for, right?
I do love
That's like my last hope.
There you go.
If we can't do anything else, make the AI happy so that, it treats us well in the future.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I remember to say please and thank you every time.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
the most important thing.
Build it into your queries that you put into your dashboards, please. Yeah.
Yeah. I say that to my kids all the time.
Yeah.
Manners and a good smile will get you everywhere. So let's smile at the camera while ChatGPT is using
no
our
eye.
and we keep an eye on us. Well, Michael, it's been awesome chatting with you. I certainly wish you and the team at Splunkable a ton of success. And
Thank you so much.
if you don't know Splunkable, definitely check them out as a fantastic Splunk partner offering managed services consulting and a number of capabilities, as well as obviously really cool apps that are connecting generative AI to Splunk in some really unique ways that allow you to tinker and learn and enrich your data pipelines, use it as assistive tool, and so on. Thanks so much for the conversation. And remember, I think the key takeaway was be nice to your AI friends because you don't want Skynet to remember you as somebody who's ugly. I'm Corey Menn with the Big Data Beard. We're super happy you joined us. I'm hopeful that you'll give us some comment in the feedback section below. If you've got any other topics you think are interesting, or if you want to find out more, definitely look to the links to find out where you can find that Splunkable TA. We'll join you again shortly from Splunks.conf23. Thanks for joining us.